We're live for day 2 of the Divine Exchange. I'm your host, Xtina Harmsworth. We're streaming in 2 different places right now. So as we just bust into day 2, just a couple things to notate is I'm over here on Instagram. So if you see me looking this way, this phone's on Instagram. This phone is on Facebook because we have beautiful audience members in each category. So I'm streaming live in 2 spots right now. And for context, if this got shared to you in the last 24 or 48 hours, if a friend tagged you, if somebody sent this to you in your inbox, here's the vibe. I am a success mentor. I've done multi-millions in sales in the online space. And typically I create content like this every single month inside of a private Facebook community. And recently, in the last fiscal quarter, I decided to give myself a goal to do 365 days of Reels. In doing that, I've done a ton of reclamation work around my voice and visibility, etc. And this month, when I went to go and bust out my monthly masterclass that I create for all my clients for free, I got a very clear divine nudge that we were not doing that in the free, private, safe Facebook community with only 1.2K people in it. I got a very clear download, like, no, we're doing this for the world. This is going public. This is going on the public Facebook. It's going on the Instagram channel. It's gonna definitely go on our YouTube. And so the deep knowing that I had about this is like, I'm already putting myself out there at this level with Reels. And so this was just the next logical evolution. So here we are. I do this every single month. I don't know, I might be doing these on a regular basis outside of my private Facebook group. I don't know what's gonna happen next. All I know is I clearly got told we're doing this way. So this is day 2 of a 3-day series. If you missed day 1, you wanna watch it because it lays the groundwork for what I'm gonna say today. The replay is available. It's live now. It's on either the Facebook or Instagram channels. So you can absolutely go back and replay. I won't be taking these down because my intent and my prayer with this was that no matter when people watch it, whether they found it today, whether they find it in a year from now, whenever they find it is the perfect time to find it. And so I'm gonna leave this content up with that intent. Okay, I need to ground into this experience. I've already had the best day. I was already crying on a call this morning. I might cry again doing this training. I don't care. I had a graduation call with one of my clients today who was part of a space. It's one of my higher end masterminds, and we had a graduation call today. And if you're live right now, can you write graduate? Just write the word graduate. I'm going to talk about this today in terms of stopping outsourcing your power, because I really believe in the model of taking people back to their power. For transparency's sake, yes, I'm a coach. Yes, I'm a speaker. Yes, I'm a mentor. I get paid for information and integration. I get paid for my embodiment of what I know, and people pay me to teach it to them. But my end goal with all of my clients is that they walk away so empowered that if they choose to stay, they choose to stay, but that's not my goal. I desire for people to be so embodied when they work with me that there's a graduation point. We're not in a codependent forever relationship. It's like, there's a point to this. We get to the point, right? So I had a graduation call with one of my clients that walked with me for a year inside of Locked and Loaded. And the things that she had to say really affirmed my work with her. She told me that in the last year, she made over $100,000 in sales in a business that the previous year she had done about $8,000 in. She told me at this point, she's bringing home checks that are as big as her husband's and sometimes bigger. And so she tries to take him on dates. And I was like, oh my God, is he so proud of you? Right? She's like, yeah. But the bigger thing that she said that made me cry it was the money, yeah, because I'm here for everyone, for financial evolution. But it was what she said about her belief. The fact that what shifted in her in the last year was believing that she could be worth more than what she grew up thinking she was worth. And this is the point of what we're going to talk about today. Identity. 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 It's such a broad word, right? Identity. When I say identity, what pops up for you? And by the way, I love a ton of audience participation, so I'm going to ask you a lot of questions while we're live, right? So when I say the word like identity, what comes up for you? Does it even ring a bell yet? I guarantee you, today it will. What does identity mean to you? As a success mentor, as someone who firmly believes in the coaching industry, self-development, spiritual entrepreneurship, conscious entrepreneurship, in my opinion, when you are feeling like you're at capacity in life, meaning like you're running on all cylinders, you can't handle anymore, you're feeling like something has to change, you're feeling expanded left, right, and center, right? You have to, in my opinion, the first principle that I would encourage people to look at is, what's your identity? The client that made me cry this morning, and I have tissues here just in case I cry again, who knows if I will, and I have my notes here. The identity that she grew up in was a very religious structure. Now, I'm a magnet for people of all different types of faith. You'll find that I will say I don't have a trademark on truth. I will not tell you what God to believe in, but I talk about God and I talk about faith all the time. And so that attracts people to me of a multiplicity of different faiths. So this client that I was speaking with this morning came from a super like ultra conservative religious background. And it's a little mind-boggling to think about it, but there's a subset of religions that are active right now in North America, the United States, and other countries, where the women who are like my age, they are groomed as children to believe that what they are good for is manual labor and having babies. And about age 12, these girls get pulled from school and encouraged to take care of the home. And I asked her, like, did anyone ever directly tell you like you were only good for working in the field or the kitchen and having babies? And she's like, it's not like said, it's just implied. And it's what our mothers did and probably what their mothers did. And so it's passed down. The identity isn't self-identification. It's literally like, this is what was handed to me. Mind-blowing that this is active. This is a huge part of North American culture. You'd be shocked how many people have this passed down to them as their identity. You're good for what you can do for people. You're good for being a mother. You're good for being in the kitchen. On the flip side, for men, a lot of what I experience is like worth-based trauma is that men are good for what they can make in the workplace, how much they can provide, what kind of success they can show outwardly. So both men and women have implied identities that are passed to us from school teachers, parents, the education system or lack of education system. For my client, you know, they get pulled out of school. Other people feel like they get indoctrinated by school, so it's in both hands. And when I talk about success beyond capacity, the people that I'm talking to are people that feel like there is an upper limit to their identity. They feel a glass ceiling. Like, I definitely resonated with that. And when I wrote the capacity series leading up to teaching this masterclass, I talked about, you know, I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan, which is a vibe. It's a place. I'm really proud to be from Michigan. And actually, one of my friends from Michigan just joined the chat. Hey, Anthony on Instagram, good to see you. Right, so I grew up in Saginaw, Michigan. I had really big dreams ever since I was a little kid. I knew that I would be part of media. I knew that I would be part of like television. I thought that I would be part of reality TV. I used to pretend that there was cameras in every corner of the room in our house. Like I just had this inner knowing. I had the divine nudge. I want to bring you guys home to like, did you have that when you were a kid? Did you ever have like a daydream of who you were going to be? Now, full disclosure, I was a fat kid with a perm and buck teeth when I was like around the age that reality TV came out. And I was that person that used to just go stand in my bathroom and look in the mirror and like ask God, like, I just wish I could see a crystal ball. Like, am I going to be okay when I'm older? Because this is not the vibe. It was not the coolest existence. And I used to just be like, God, I just wish that I could see like what it was going to be like when I'm older. Because like, I was seeing road rules and reality TV shows like The Real World. I was so interested in media, and I could tell at a young age, like I was 10 or 11 when reality TV dropped into our existence. I don't know what business I had watching those shows because they were next level. This was literally MTV, Mary Alice Budem, like documenting social concepts like trigger warning, like assault, biracial relationships, like abuse of narcotics. They would stick a bunch of people into a house, kind of like how we watch Big Brother or other reality shows. The very first editions of reality shows, they were The Real World. They would stick a bunch of people in a house and they would put cameras in every corner. And like it would see people like sneaking and like sleeping together and like fighting. I don't know what business I had watching, you know, MTV at that age, but I was watching it going like I see what they're doing here. They are documenting social concepts. I could tell at that age, like that's what this show is about. They're putting people in precarious situations and they're documenting what happens. And so I could tell like, oh, there's a camera up in that corner. There's a camera in that corner. They would have the night vision cameras and like catch people hooking up, you know? And I'd be like, okay, so if I were part of reality TV and I was documenting like social concepts and like interpersonal relationships, what would that be like? And no shit, for like 3 years, I just lived my whole life like there was cameras in my house. Like between age like 11 and 14, I just pretended that there's cameras everywhere, and it would make me sit up straighter, and I would be careful what I said to my brother. I would be like, well, if this is being documented, I definitely want to look like I'm right here and I'm the good one. So I'm just going to be more careful what I'm saying here. And like, you know, just being aware of like the angles. And it was so weird. Like, what kid does this? But I felt this like whisper. I was so interested in media. I believe that if you really listened for it and went back and asked yourself as a kid, was there something like that for you? Something that just like caught your passion, caught your attention. It was like a calling for you. It was the divine nudge of like, pay attention, get interested in this. Okay, in Saginaw, Michigan, that's a far cry. Saginaw, Michigan in the 90s, it's like that would be like a dream world. I was too busy jumping on my trampoline and laying in the pool and, you know, listening to Hard Rock and Fiona Apple. It was just like a different world. But I want to ask you, if you go back to when you were a kid, was there something that was a divine nudge about your identity? I leaned into this really hard as a teenager, early 20s, against other people's better judgment. I remember going to cosmetology school, and it was so different from what my peers were doing. My peers went to high school, they were graduating high school, they had their thing, and like my set of circumstances that I talked about in the capacity series, which is available for you guys to look at, you know, it's on my walls, it's on my grid on Instagram, it's on my wall on Facebook. It's like my personal concept, it was like I just kept on getting these nudges to do different things than the rest of my peers. When my friends were really in the throes of high school, I went to hair school. I was a weirdo. My friends went to prom. I styled them for prom. I went like once and it was enough. Like, it was enough. It wasn't my speed. I liked making a couple $100s in the daytime doing updos and makeups and things like that. And then I would take my money and go to a rock concert or whatever. Like, I was different. And then once I had a cosmetology license and a high school diploma, it's like my friends were all going to college. This is identity that's programmed into you. You're supposed to do the high school thing, and then you're supposed to go to prom, and you're supposed to go to university, you're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get a degree, you're supposed to aim for the six-figure corporate job. I had a lot of imposed or implied identity. And I think for some of you, it's like you can't even remember the nudges because you were so like balls deep in the imposed identity. What your parents said to do, what your faith said to do, what your school teacher said to do, the implied expectations on your identity, you just get so into living that some people don't even question it. So they have no memory of what they were getting nudged to do. I don't know why. I think I just had a lot of fucking free time. I thank God for that. I had a really creative brain as a kid, and I had a lot of free time. I have an older brother that died when I was like 2. He was terminally ill. It really rocked our family. And I just think that it informed the way that my mom parented. Like, I think she was just so freaking grateful that me and my brother were healthy, that it was just this environment of like, just be whatever you want. It was so interesting, right? My mom she supported the arts. She took me to do the things that I wanted to do, right? She was a very supportive mom. I have the best mom. Like, Mom, if you're watching, I love you. Like, I have the best mom. And so I had a lot of free time to just cultivate like the arts and what I was imagining. I thank God for that. But I think a lot of people haven't taken that time. So if you don't remember any nudges about your identity, like, it's time to lean into that as an adult. So fast forward into like my 20s, I was already like working in a really interesting job where I was working with high-end clients, millionaires, multimillionaires, celebrities, etc. Like, it was like a God thing. I always just got put in the right place, the right time, through nudges, through listening. And if you watched any of my recent content, I don't believe that this is exclusive to me. I think anyone can do this. I think we're all connected to God, and we get the option to develop our listening skills. We get the option to think for ourselves. Is that resonating with any of you? Like, what if the thing that you're outsourcing to everyone else, to psychics and teachers and leaders and faith and tradition and, you know, college education, like what if God has something for you and you're just so busy living the implied identity that everyone says that you should do that you just missed it? But you have the gift and you can't tap it. Like, what if? Just imagine. So in my mid-20s or early 20s, I already had this cool ass job, and I was like, okay, I'm already doing like makeup and I'm in the spa industry and I'm meeting all these like badass people, but what if the media thing is still there? And so I was brave enough to just explore, write down like brave enough to explore. I wanted to explore that identity. And so I went to my mom's house. I didn't even have a computer back in the day. I was like a tech idiot. Like, I didn't even grow up with a computer in my house. I was such an idiot about tech. Like, and here we are. And I remember going to my mom's house and I just started like Googling like makeup and media, or like media makeup artist. And apparently I must have put my name in somebody's like lead generator. And I got a phone call a few months later where this lady was like, hey, the owner of this prestigious makeup school wants to mentor you. You'll have to move to Hollywood. Divine nudge. I didn't even know what I was asking for, but I followed the nudge. I will say, I had a lot of people in my life back then who I considered leadership over me, who told me, don't do this. This is a bad idea. Like, think of who I am today to some of you. I have some of my long-term clients here watching live. The mentor that I became, the human that I became, the brands that I developed, multi-seven-figure beauty and business, like entrepreneur, brands. It had to start with me making that leap of like, I freaking moved across the country by myself to Hollywood from Saginaw. What the fuck? And I remember my dad was just so kind and he was trying to protect me so much. My dad, he's an OG. He worked, I say OG, like he's like an original, like General Motors, long-term, like he was like the guy. He retired from GM. And that is a really common life path in Michigan to like get into the automotive industry. Because if you don't know anything about Michigan, there's just like, it's an industry. The car industry is a big deal over there. So if you get in at Ford or GM or Chrysler or Chevy or whatever, like it's a big deal. So my dad had his full career with a lot of benefits, paid time off, overtime, just he had the thing. And when I was like, I think I'm gonna move to Hollywood and study makeup, I think all of his bells went off of like, fuck, no, bad idea, not secure. And my dad was so sweet to me. He was just like, have you thought about working at GM? What if I would have worked at GM, guys? General Motors. Making cars. This is implied identity. This is what my dad saw for me. And then there's what I was being like called to do on the inside. It's so different. It's so bizarre. I begged my cousin to go with me. Nobody would go with me. Come on. What is God whispering to you about your life? It's the softest whisper. It's so nuanced. It's so subtle at first. Principle number 1, and we're going to do 5 today. If you've got a pulse right now and you've got your heart beating, write 5 principles. I'm going to teach you 5 principles for getting success beyond your wildest dreams, success beyond capacity, success beyond the norm. Principle number 1 is identity work. The first piece of identity work is de-pedestalizing the voices. De-pedestalizing the voices. de-pedestalizing the voices. What do I mean by that? When I make content, and I've got to be more pristine with this, but when I make content where I say de-pedestalize mentors, I don't mean disrespect them. There's a difference between taking someone off the pedestal and disrespecting them. For clarity's sake, I have had the best mentors in the world. If one of my mentors is watching, and if I ever paid you for mentorship, I can attest you are one of the greats. I think that I have had the best mentors in the planet. I chose really freaking well. The person that I am today got developed through mentorship. I have zero disrespect for my mentors. I'm so grateful for them. The person that is here today saying this got here through a lot of mentorship. And also I want to say that there are things that your mentors will say, and there are things that your parents, your leaders, your faith are saying to you. And there's a point where we have to be cognizant of whether we are outsourcing our power. When I say outsourcing our power, I mean, instead of listening to the divine nudge within and developing and cultivating the person and the identity and the destiny that is meant for you, instead of doing that, we just hand our power and our future over to someone else and say, just blindly, what should I do? Tell me what to do. And with this single action, outsourcing our decision-making process and our power, we put a mentor where God belongs. Again, I don't hold the trademark on truth. I can't tell you who God is. I can only tell you we all have a connection to the divine. And you know what you're supposed to do. There's something within that informs you of what's right and wrong. You have an inner compass. You have instincts that tell you, like, don't go that way, go this way. And when you listen to, it doesn't matter if it's pastors, the medical industry, the coaching industry, the beauty industry, anybody, and you have a divine nudge to go this direction, and someone tells you, no, but you have to do it my way to be successful, and you say, okay, I will. You have effectively outsourced your identity, your power, your voice, your nuance, and your destiny. Coaches and mentors are a resource. They're not the source. So yes, get mentorship. It will change your life. Of course I believe in this. I've spent $250,000. I've spent $250,000 on developing who I am today via mentorship. I'm for mentorship, but just take the mentor off the pedestal. They don't want to be there anyways. They're human. One of the most beautiful things that I learned in my highest investment, I spent $120,000 plus recently to be coached by someone incredible, is that she's a human being with a heart. I think about it all the time. I watch her, I watch the way that people expect perfection from her, and it could make me cry. She's human. When you put a mentor on the pedestal, I want to say something about that. It's so disempowering for you. And most of the time, when you are asking someone to tell you what to do with your life, you're actually just looking for someone to blame when it doesn't work out. Biggest binds I've ever gotten myself into in business and personally were when I took somebody's advice that did not agree with my spirit, but I thought they're more successful than me. They're telling me to do this thing. It doesn't land for me. but I'm gonna go do it against my better judgment, against the whispers within me of what I'm made of and what I'm made for. Ooh. And I would go just blindly follow, and it got me in so much trouble. And at the bottom of it, I was really just looking to be able to blame them at the end and go like, well, you told me to do this and it didn't work. Some people enter into a faith and look to spiritual leaders, pastors, the spiritual community. They look to coaches to tell them what to do next, so that when they do that thing, they have somebody to blame that it didn't work. Instead of going like, I love what this person teaches. I'm going to take the pieces of it that are a fuck yes for me, and whatever is not meant for me, I'm going to leave that right there, because God is calling me to something else. This is deep personal responsibility, and this is deep identity work. It's identity work to be able to tell a pastor or a coach or a mentor, I love your idea, but I'm not doing it. That takes balls. The same way it would take balls to say to your boss in corporate, like, I love your idea, and also, like, it's not good. I have an intuition that this is supposed to be like this. Do you know what I'm saying? It takes guts. You gotta have identity and like an awareness of self to be able to do that or say that, right? So if you want success beyond capacity, wild success, 1% success. And when I say 1% success, let me define that out a little bit. When I say 1%, I mean the top 1% earners just in the United States, like North America, they make about $430,000 plus annually. 1%. The top 1% of earners in the US right now, top 1% is $430,000 annually. That's a 1% earner. Of course, you can become a 0.001 and get that number a lot higher, but that's not even a high number. And I say that peppered with the fact that I've made multi-millions, and I realize what it costs to do the things that I want to do in life. So like $430,000 doesn't sound like a big deal. And yet that's what what do you call it? A neurosurgeon makes, like $300,000, $400,000 a year. I saw that. I said, that's it? I make more than a neurosurgeon? That's fucking crazy. That's nuts. But that's a 1% earner. So when I say 1% decisions, I literally mean like you are making decisions that 99% of people won't make, don't know how to make, haven't been coached to make, haven't been in the right environment yet to make. And 99% of what you see out there is not even a path to getting to 1%. And wealth is so much more than money. There's 1% bodies. There's 1% of health. There's 1% of emotional intelligence. There's a top 1% in every category. So you just have to decide what's important to you. But anyways, let me bring this back in. Identity work. You got to know who you are and have the boldness to speak your truth. And this takes me into 2. So we're now in principle 2, identity work. And principle 2 is reclamation of the body. Write it down. So we've got to reclaim the identity, come back home to truth, and we've got to do reclamation around the body, which includes the voice. To have real 1% success in whatever area you want to be in, you want to be in the top 1%, you're gonna have to use not just up here. There's a mind, body, spirit, creation. There's a full body connection. And what I want to point out here is that most people's energy center is their head. So like your head, this is like the masculine crown chakra of the body. Masculine energy, it's a lot of rational thinking. It's planning, rationality. This makes sense, let's do it. Here's the steps, let's execute. Let's think about what could go wrong. Let's think about what other people are thinking. It's think. And most people live up here in the head. And they are just up in their brain all day long. Think. So this is where the energy is stored, head. And then it's time for you to speak your truth and use your voice. Oh, that's not the head. The throat. The deeper that I go into body work, I'm realizing that the throat is connected to, like your voice, it's also connected to your gut. And for women, it's like your private parts. If you're shut off down there, if you're icy, if you're cold, if you have shame, if you've had religious programming that tells you like you are sinful, your body is a distraction, you need to cover up, you should dress more modest, you are luring men with your eyes, you shouldn't look like that because you're causing people to sin sexually, cover your breasts, don't wear that skirt, ... That is, we're going to take it back to number one, that's an implied identity. If no one ever said a thing to you about your body, would you feel the way that you feel about sex, about the bedroom, about sexual expression, around your freedom, around artistic expression with what you wear? Jackie, freaking, this is a conversation. Jackie on Facebook, this is a freaking conversation. So when you have shame around your anatomy and you have projections and implied identities and expectations around what you can and can't do, and that's what you've been informed, and you've never reclaimed your body, you're shut off down here, you're hiding up here, you got gut issues going on. Then you go to speak and you feel like, oh my God, what are they gonna think about me? I'm gonna get fired, I'm gonna be ostracized, I'm gonna be shunned, I'm gonna be shamed, people are gonna unfollow me, right? There's a lot of that going on, and it shuts the voice. When you're not clear in your identity, the voice and the body are disconnected from the head. You can think all day long. Are any of you guys like this? You get in an argument with somebody or someone says just something fucked up to you and you think about it for a month. And you're like, I should have said, my husband, he has fights with the windshield. He'll go for a drive and he'll shout at the windshield what he wished he would have said. He does it in the bathroom mirror. It's his thing. And I'm like, you got to free that voice, buddy. I love him. But so many of us are like this. We can live in our head all day long and postulate what we would have said. But like the throat is disconnected. So the piece number one of wild success is understanding your identity and not taking on what's implied that you should be, do, act, say, wear, etc. And number two is body reclamation, the voice. Now, at the end of today, I'm going to be talking about some different places that you can join in my world where we do this deep work, but I'm just telling you, this is what's happening and this is why. When you feel like you can't speak your truth, a lot of it has to do with body shame. And a lot of people don't even resonate with that word body shame. Even the word shame at all doesn't always land with me. I don't love the word, but when I really think about it, I'm like, yeah, it would shut me down from wanting to talk if I was terrified that if I spoke my truth, that I would be shunned, that I would be discluded, that I would be unfollowed, that I would be hated. And this is where you truly get the opportunity to go deep and do work with your body, reconnect with your whole body, and take the energy from just hanging out in your head all day, thinking about the answers, and bring the energy down into the body. And this is a lot of the work that I do with my clients in my private spaces. Just recently, I hosted a retreat, a super exclusive retreat for my clients here in Atlanta. And we do a lot of branding work because I work with entrepreneurs primarily. And I show them beauty rituals. I worked as a celebrity makeup artist for years. I love self-expression through beauty. And I think that there's a somatic aspect to it of like ritual and self-love and calming the nervous system and just literally like worshiping your body in the most healthy way, right? Loving on yourself through expression of beauty. It's like you're making art. So I teach my clients beauty rituals so they can self-express the way that they want to express, not in a cookie cutter way, but the way that they want to express. And as I was doing this work, I got this clear download. Again, the divine nudge going into the weekend of hearing like, there's shame stuck in their bodies. Because I could teach people makeup all day long, and then they would go to get on camera after all the makeup was done and the outfits, and we would plan their shoots for weeks. And then they'd go get in front of the camera, and their body would go stiff. And they'd be like, what do I do with my hands? My face is stiff. What do I do? I'm trying to smile. You know what I'm saying? It would just get really weird. And as I explored into this, and I'm like, how do I get these women to like literally step into the next level iteration of themselves and like loosen up, right? And I literally heard move their hips. They have shame stuck in their reproductive space. They have shame about their yoni, their sex, like their ability to have children or not, the way that, religion informed them about their sensuality. And I literally heard, like, from what I perceive as God, like, move their hips, which brought somatics full blown into my retreat. And it was one of the most incredible things I've ever done with my clients. And it was cutting edge because we had a priest in the room, a Catholic priest. We had people from that same background that I talked about at the beginning of the video, like the Mennonite and Amish background, very religious background, very, very like compressed energies around sensuality. And I was like, we're just gonna sensually dance. Let's go. It was such a vibe. This work has changed my life. Getting out of my head and into my body. People ask about manifestation work, and a lot of it is like, if you can get it in the body, you can get it in the mind. If you get it in the mind, you can hold it in your hand, but you can't skip the body. And this work is for men too. Okay? So principle number 1 is you've got to actually reclaim the identity. Stop taking on the projected stuff and get home to you. What are you called to do? 2 is voice and body reclamation. Write that down for me. Voice and body reclamation. Self-ownership. This is my body. This is my temple. This is my gift from God. What a beautiful house for my soul. I'm going to love it. I'm going to devote to it. I'm going to care for it. I'm going to tend to my temple. voice and body reclamation. This is some of my deepest work in this world. And speaking of voice and identity reclamation, I want to give you a real world example of what I mean. If you attended day one, it was foundational. Would you say it's a lot of foundation work? I sat there and I said, this is the meaning of the words that I'm going to say. This is what capacity means. This is what expansion means. And it was a lot of laying groundwork with kind of bigger words, right? I would say for about 5 years, I had a really phenomenal coach, and she told me, speak like you're talking at Walmart, because you don't want to disclude anyone, right? She'd be like, you want to be understood by everyone, and so speak Walmart. Like, bring it down a notch. Now, I don't speak Walmart. I grew up in a household where my stepdad, who raised me alongside my mom primarily, like, he would say like 6-syllable words, and I'd be like, Dad, what does that mean? And he would say, go read the dictionary. And he would point me to our office in the house, he called it the den, that was full of law and banking books and dictionaries and encyclopedias, and I would have to go down the hallway and look up this word. I was a spelling bee champion for years. I wasn't raised to speak Walmart. And yet, one of my primary mentors, this was her ideologies, like, speak Walmart, don't talk over people's heads. Okay? So that's one way of thinking. I have another personal hero that I love, Alex Hormozy, and he says something similar. He's like, don't write marketing that's beyond a 3rd grade comprehension level. You'll lose people. I'm like, okay. And also, that's not my identity. God isn't calling me to that. God is saying to me, do an extra day of work and make the baseline. Teach them, give them context, lay the foundation, teach them the words that you think might not make any sense, bring people into the language, bring people into the jargon, elevate the vocabulary, bring people with you. Don't speak Walmart. Like, for fuck's sake, use your words. This is a primary example of me going like, well, 2 people that are a fuck ton richer than I am are telling me, like, don't say anything too complicated. And my inner guidance system is like, say everything complicated. Talk about the big things of life. Clearly there's an audience for it. You're not the only one thinking like this. Like, this conversation is available, but you have to show up and use your voice and know your identity. And then I had the most phenomenal mentor the last few years who's like, no, literally, the brilliance in you will find the brilliance in them. Speak like you're speaking to your peers, and they will arise. I'd much rather go that route and do the extra work and teach people the foundations. You see what I'm saying? Know your identity and reclaim your voice. This is a primary example of knowing who you are and doing the reclamation work of being like, I have incredible mentors, and also not everything that they say is for me. I get to pick. And so with that being said, I talk about a lot of things, and I would highly, highly recommend that you weigh it against your own internal guidance system and ask yourself, is this even for me? Just because I say it doesn't mean that it's your reality. I don't hold a trademark on truth. Reclamation work is you get to decide. You get to trust your inner knowing instead of outsourcing your power and asking other people to think on your behalf. No, you get to think. You get to know. You get to pick. You get to trust your own heart and your own path. Because when you don't, you cut innovation. My team and I were chit-chatting just recently about this whole concept about the return to body and releasing shame, connecting to your own identity. And was in the car with Raven. We were driving to do the photo shoot for this branding, actually. Did you guys see the branding, like in the lake, in the water? That was a whole experience, man. Like, we went that day and we recorded a lot of like the podcast content that you guys are seeing right now with like the tan brown shirt, and it's me and our production team talking about mentorship and taking people off the pedestal and putting God back where he belongs, or she, whatever you believe in, right? That day we did a lot of spiritual work in terms of like me using my voice, and at the end of it I was like, I feel like I need to be baptized, like in the most broad sense of the word. I was like, let's go to the lake, like I need to get in the water. And we literally went out in the water, did the photo shoot for this branding. It was like a rebirth. It's the best way I can describe it. It was like a rebirth day. And on the way to do that shoot, Raven and I were talking in the car, and I was like, you know, it's so interesting being a leader in my industry and watching my peers in this industry and thinking that, you know, everybody kind of looks the same. There's a model for success. If you're live, right? Model for success, M-O-D-E-L, model for success. So we see success modeled. And for a while, it kind of looked like everybody had the same look. Everybody had the same photo shoot. Raven said something like, if I have to see another GD boho photo shoot in Tulum, and I'm like, you know, if that's who you really are, then do that. But don't book the photo shoot in Tulum, or book the photo shoot in the lake, or book the photo shoot because you saw somebody successful do it. You saw their model of it. So you're like, well, if that's what it takes to look like you're successful, book the shoot, right? Like, you don't have to talk like the rest of the industry. Your branding doesn't have to look like the rest of your industry. How you dress doesn't have to be like the rest of your industry. Like, if you're in corporate America and you want to wear blazers and sneakers instead of a dress, wear what the fuck you want to wear. This is reclamation of identity. We see a model of success and we go, well, if that's what it looks like to succeed, then that's what I must do. And this return to yourself and the return to your own destiny and your innovation, write down return to innovation. In order for you to actually be an innovator and a leader in your industry, you literally can't do what everyone is doing. You have to make 1% moves. If 99% of people in your field are doing a certain thing, like, don't do it because you're like, well, that's what successful people do. What are you called to do? Because it might be the complete opposite, and it might be exactly what the industry needs. There is a God whisper right now that is returning people to innovation. And it means that you have to return to listening, like with your whole body, and doing the identity work, returning home to self. Stop outsourcing your power and asking people to fix you. Real freedom and innovation comes from work like this. Real 1% success comes from not doing what everyone else is doing. I mean, do it if it's really you. Like, okay, here's a great example. I talk a lot about the beauty industry because I cut my teeth in that industry, right? So there might be people who are like, well, then why do you wear makeup? And I'm like, because that's really my jam. I see makeup artistry as personal expression. I see it as like life as art. I love it. And so I wear it because I love it. I don't wear it because other people in my industry do it. Do you get what I'm saying? I took this retreat. So today, the backdrop that you're seeing, this is the city view where we're hosting our summer event, Clear to Soar. And I took this little retreat, this getaway, because I was just feeling at capacity and I had some work to do. This work that I'm talking about right now, this work, right? So I came here, and yesterday I created 20 pieces of branding. I needed space. I needed to just get into the vibe. I created 20 pieces of branding, and I have a specific desire for my branding that doesn't look like the rest of the industry. I will say, I have absolutely hired the best graphic designer in the industry, and I went the route for about 6 months of having the cookie cutter branding that looked like all the multi 7-figure coaches. I used the person that they used, and that was one iteration of me. And then there was the iteration of me that was like, actually, I'm super creative. I know what I want my shit to look like, and that branding for this event, I did it. Shalisha shot it, I edited the whole thing. There was a whisper of innovation that was like, this looking like everyone else is not what gets you paid. You have to be able to like listen to God and innovate. There's innovation on the horizon if you can think for yourself and stop pedestalizing people. Is this good or is this good? How are you guys feeling? We're in point number 2. We're moving into 3 right quick. If you're liking this, throw me some lightning bolts in the comments because I'm a big lightning bolt lover. It's my favorite emoji. If this is a vibe for you, just throw me a little lightning. Okay, we're gonna move into point number 3. Part of the principles of having success far beyond capacity, far beyond the moment where you're just like, oh my God, I can't take anymore. I feel like I'm at Groundhog's Day. Something has got to give. When you're at capacity, that's a really good sign that something crazy is on the horizon for you, but this is the next move. Okay? Principle 3 is realizing that a lot of your upper limits are not yours. A lot of your upper limits are not yours. I'm gonna say it again. Many of your upper limits are not yours. What you think you're capable of, what you think can happen for you, what you think your body can do, what you think you can hold in terms of money, experience, people. A lot of your upper limits are not even yours. They are your ancestry. This is the part where it's not your fault, but you get to address it. I love just letting people in a little bit, especially with, spaces like this, like my little masterclasses. I love letting people in to my world a little bit and kind of explaining like the who and the what and giving you context that I'm a fucking human too, okay? So recently I did some work, some really deep work that you would call somatic work, right? Body work, connecting with my soul, myself, my body. This is the type of stuff that we're gonna do at Clear to Soar this summer, okay? And a question was asked of me around lack. So we were addressing supposedly financial lack with this somatic work, but I didn't really align to that because I don't have a lot of financial lack. I mean, I feel very blessed. I had to bring this light down. I feel super blessed. I feel very accomplished. I don't feel like I have financial lack. So I actually wasn't there to address financial lack that day. I decided to address the lack of trust. Lack of trust. Yes, Paul Miller, he said ancestral healing is so key to freedom and wealth. This is why it made the list, baby. You know. Okay, so instead of going after money, I literally was like, I just wish that I trusted. I wish that I had more trust, specifically in men. Oof. And so I went into the somatic work and they asked, when do you first remember not feeling like trust, right? When did you first notice this sense of lack in your body? Because lack of trust is in your body. a fucking million%, it's in your body. You feel it with your partner, you feel it in business, you feel it in friendship, you feel it when you walk into a room and you don't know if you can trust the people in there. It is a visceral reaction. And so the leader of the space said, like, when do you first remember feeling this? And I went all the way back to like 2-3 years old. I could see the crib in my room. And then I got smaller and smaller. And I heard the whisper that I know for me is my truth. And you can develop this knowing. I promise you, I swear, it's available to everyone. I swear to God, I'm not the only person who gets this. You can have this too. So I leaned in and I heard, born this way. Born this way. Born with lack of trust in men. And then all of a sudden I went into deep meditation and I saw my mom. Being pregnant with me. My brother was on the edge of, dying pretty soon. I had another brother who was probably 2 years old running around the house. And my mom was like living in a nightmare. And the support that I'm betting that she wanted from her partner, it was not available. I wasn't there. I also don't have a trademark on truth. I've had a lot of deep dialogue with my dad around his experience of this, but you got to understand, like again, trigger warning for child loss. I need to say that, trigger warning for child loss. But when you have a child that's terminally ill, your life will never be the same. And I think my dad was dealing with this the best that he knew how, and my mom was holding it together. So there was probably a violation of my mom's trust. Not feeling supported. So think of that. Whatever the mother experiences, the mother and the baby in utero, they're one. The resonance, the frequency of emotion, whatever is happening for the mother happens for the child. So both men and women, however the child is born, right? You literally are born with the resonance and the frequency of your mother. So we walk in here into this life with a whole bunch of stuff that's not necessarily ours, but we get to address it. So, and my mom's watching live. She said, there was no trust on her end, right? It wasn't there. And so in this deep meditation, as I'm doing this work, I'm doing my practice, I then saw my grandma. And if you've ever seen that, have you seen that, like that post or that meme that says, like the grandmother holds the eggs for not only her baby, but also the next generation. So in a weird way, they say that you've actually been in your grandma's body. Have you seen that? I don't know how true it is, but maybe it's not true. I just think, what if it is? And in this deep meditation, I saw my mom feeling it like the no trust. And then I saw my grandma, my mom's mom, who technically I would have been like in her body, if that's all true. And I saw my grandma, like her first marriage was not so hot. Her first marriage did not go so great. She was, again, I wasn't there, but I've heard, there was some abuse there. She was pregnant, young. And anybody who's ever fallen in love young, you just think that you have the world in the palm of your hands. You think this person can do no wrong. And if you've ever had heartbreak at a young age and you've just so pedestalized this person, here goes that word again, we pedestalize young love. And then when it breaks, everything breaks, right? So my grandma, she got pregnant and had a baby with this guy. It didn't go so great. I bet her little heart was broken. I bet it really shattered some trust in men. I bet that there was a shatter of trust in men there for her. There's a little fly in here, little fruit fly. And then I was shown one other incidence for my grandma where there was there was a medical instance. I'm going to say this. If you have a trigger around child loss or baby loss, like, I would shut this off. I want to warn you that I want to actually take this here. So my grandma had, she had her babies in I believe the 50s mostly. And one of her babies was born in the hospital, and they basically told my grandma while she was giving birth, she was having her contractions, and they told her, the doctor's not here, so cross your legs and keep the baby in. Which is like a freaking medical malpractice suit in the modern age, but the baby died. And then not only did that happen for her, because this was this thing about outsourcing trust. She outsourced her trust to the medical community. And the way that they advised her, the baby died, okay? On top of that, she didn't get to see the baby or hold it. And I don't know if they drugged her or put her out, but she was in the hospital for several days. And my grandpa essentially attended the funeral and buried the baby by himself. So if you think of the person that I am today, the person that Xtina Harmsworth is today, my views on having my babies at home, lack of trust in the medical industry, lack of trust in men, just all of that, a lot of the deepest work that I've had to do in my lifetime, it's stuff that wasn't even mine. For all intents and purposes, there was no reason for me to want to home birth. Nothing ever happened in my life that made me I should probably home birth. And yet, I had this gut instinct of I am not having kids in the hospital. And this is not a statement on how you birth. You birth however you want to birth. But this was ancestral stuff from my bloodline, from generations back. The resonance of not trusting. The resonance of outsourcing one's power to love, to relationships, to the medical industry, to other people's advice, handing trust over, outsourcing the better judgment and telling someone else, just tell me what to do, think for me. And the effects of that, blindly trusting in men, right, in relationships and young love, didn't fucking go so hot for my mom or my grandma. So I use these examples to say a lot of the deep things that you are experiencing in this life, and you're I don't know why I'm like this, but God, this is our deep conviction of mine. It's not even yours. But the thing about reclamation of your power, reclamation of your voice, and actually understanding the work of healing your ancestry is that, yes, you walk into this life with a whole backpack full of shit that is not yours. It's your experiences. It's the cultural experiences that you walked in with. It's your mother's experience with life. It's your grandmother's experience of life. It's your father's experience of life. It's what you had in the womb. There's a lot of ancestry stuff that we walk here with that, God bless it, it's not yours. But we get to heal it. One of my favorite peers in the industry talks about that there's telepathy in the bloodline, which is a really different concept, but I 100% agree. That when you choose to do the work of ancestral healing and body reclamation, voice reclamation, identity reclamation, no longer buying into the societal structures, what people say that you should be, do, wear, look like, etc. Not only do you do that reclamation work for yourself, but you do it for your entire bloodline, past, present, and future. The thing that just crushed me in the best way on my call today was when my client was I resolved this belief in what I could do that was passed to me through my faith and my parents and my culture. And like it worked for her, you know, she made over $100,000 in sales, and like she showed herself what she is. But she said, my daughter, and the mindset for her is being reset. It's being set up differently now. This is the work of our generation. We've been really born into the most radical time ever. You know, not only the information age that has been the last 20 years or plus, but now it's the integration and the embodiment age. Because there's information, but you don't get anything out of it until you apply it. And what is the application of information? It's taking the information and getting what you want with it. It's not enough to know. It's not activated until you embody. And we were born at a time where that's limitless. These phones that we hold in our hands, you have access to people all over the world who are doing this work. It's the top 1% bracket of humanity, in my opinion, of emotional intelligence, embodiment work, spiritual practice, and people who, as a secondary move with that, you know, you embody and then more money comes, you become 1% wealth. It's just, it's a ripple effect. It's a cause and effect. It's like dominoes falling when you do this work. So I want to say principle number 3 is literally doing the ancestral healing work and realizing a lot of the shit that's in your backpack that you're carrying around, it isn't yours. But when you choose to heal it, which is a radical move, you heal timelines past and timelines future. This is next level woo, but the day that I went to do the work that I was just saying, where I was doing my practice, and I was proposed this question: where did this come from? When did you first experience this? I had the full-blown open vision showing my mom and my grandma, etc. The day that I went to do this, I have a picture of my grandma in my bedroom, and it's always in the same spot, and it flipped down. Like the picture fell down of my grandma, like she was asking me to do this work. And that morning I woke up so pissed off about her hospital experience and how that was handled. Like I knew that I was going to be going to do some work about, you know, my somatics, my practice, my body work, and that I was actually going to address trust. I had no idea that my grandma had anything to do with it and her experiences. Like I love my grandma. There's nothing wrong with like our relationship. It was her experiences that are in my backpack ancestrally. And I woke up that morning pissed off about her loss, just mad. Angry. I was angry at how it was handled. I was actually really pissed off that she didn't trust herself and her own power and her voice enough to be like, no, I'm not doing that. Absolutely not. We're not doing that. I wish she knew her power the way that I know my power. I've birthed 2 babies at my house with no medication. I know my power. I've experienced my power. I've gone through expansion and capacity to find my power on the other side. My grandma didn't have that opportunity. It wasn't normal back then. I just woke up pissed off. But this is the stuff that's wanting us to heal it. This is some of the stuff that's showing up when you feel like you're at capacity, where you get to ask yourself, what gets to come with me in my backpack and what do I get to release? What things about my life and my habits am I carrying around as baggage that aren't even mine, and it's time for them to actually be released? Because some of you are literally at capacity and feeling like you can't take anymore because literally you're carrying around someone else's stuff. And you've got to cut those ties and light a fire within of your own identity and walk into your destiny. And it'll be healing for everyone who watches you. Is it good? You feeling it? Is there a possibility that some of the things that you're struggling with are not yours? Is there a possibility that there's some like ancestor stuff? The things that you struggle with the most might not be yours. Next level, right? Okay, I'm going to go to principle number 4. This is fire today, huh? Drop a 4 if you're ready to go to principle number 4. 4, 4, 4, 4. Principle 4. Inundate your mind with the 1% of your category. Inundate your mind with the 1% of your category. You got 1% health goals. Inundate your mind with that information. Research. Look for mentorship. A next level thought is when you go to get mentorship, literally ask God, who am I supposed to work with? This is one piece of how I hire my mentors. I don't hire out of FOMO. I don't hire mentors out of who I think I should because everyone else is using them. I literally ask God. And typically, my mentors end up being really edgy for me. They're people who are really next level in my book, and I'm always a little nervous. And I will ask who I call God. I'll be like, am I okay to do this? Is this the right person? Am I about to go down like a freaking really dark path? And I'll ask. Inundate your mind with 1%, the 1% of your field. If it's business development, find people that literally are 1%. And we've defined that financially. 1% is they're doing over $430,000 annually. That's 1% in the United States. If it's emotions and embodiment work, and it's not a money thing, you need to look for, I shouldn't say you need to, it's wise to look for people that are in the 1% of who you see as emotionally intelligent. Look for people that just really do life well. They're like really actually happy and thoughtful and well-versed and at home in their bodies and speak their truth, are loving, kind. Look for that 1% and inundate your mind with that kind of information. Now, I want to make something really clear because I've had, some really incredible mentors that say things like, cut off anybody who's not 1%. Right? That's a really strong statement. They're like, well, when you're retraining your mind to be 1%er, like you don't want to, birds of a feather flock together. You don't want to be around those, 98% people. And like, I can't get down with that philosophy. To me, that's not emotionally intelligent. You know in your gut, like if something is bad for you. When you're at capacity and you ask yourself, what gets to go with me to the next level? You will know if there's somebody that you just can't handle in this season. And I want to say something to you, just because you can't handle their presence in this season, or they take you into a lower frequency during the season, doesn't mean it's a forever cutoff. There are people that I didn't want in my life 5 years ago that I love in my life now. I just couldn't handle their presence because I wasn't strong enough. It didn't mean I needed to cut them off forever. I just needed to like insulate my mind with more of what I was trying to become until I was strong enough to handle their implied identity on me. Like being around certain family members that don't get what I do. It was hard for me to be around them. And now I'm so strong in my identity that I love being around them. Like, I don't care if they ever validate who I am. I don't need it. But when I needed it, it was smarter for me to just inundate my life with the 1% that I was trying to acclimate to. And I prioritized that for a season. But I don't mean just cut people off because they're not at your success level. That would be really weird. What if you had to cut off 99% of the people that you know because they weren't on your level? Like, that'd be a really fucking lonely existence. What if it was your mom? How rude, right? This is where your truth will guide you. you'll know. Your inner compass will inform you if there's something that you can't handle being around right now. And this is what we left off with yesterday. What was your thing that doesn't get to come with you in this season? Some of you is going to be a person that pops up. Some of you is going to be a behavior. My big thing was like my level of time commitments. You need to rein it in, pull it back. There was too much. But inundate yourself as much as you can stand with the 1% who are doing what you are after. If you could have anything you want, if you could go back in time and access a version of you that dreamed, and there's a version of you that wants to come to life, if you could have anything, what is it? Who are you? If we peel back every implied identity and every expectation that anyone has on you, and you stop outsourcing your power and asking other people to think for you and brought it all back home to your body and used your voice, who the fuck are you? Find people who are at the top percentage of that and just inundate the mind. They call it brainwashing for a reason. I fully subscribe to brainwashing myself into success. I have spent over a decade listening to personal development content and always running it through my own system, right? That was a hard lesson to learn, was like the times when I didn't run it through, I made some huge mistakes, right? But I listen to personal development content and I take what works for me and I just start integrating. And I've done it for like a decade. I literally had to like wash my brain, wash anything out that didn't align and go after the big life, the 1% life. I had to wash my brain to home birth. I had to inundate my brain with success stories, with understanding biological birth, understanding everything. I literally washed out any preconceived notions that I had about birth, and I like brainwashed myself into belief, into doing things well, doing things safely. Listen. Again, not a statement on how you birth however you want. This was my story. Mentorship with 1% thinkers changed my life. I'm so here for the mentorship industry. And also I say this with a heavy dose of choose well. Choose people who are for your empowerment. Choose people who are not edging God out. Choose people who are here to show you the ropes, so to speak, right? Show me the ropes. If you have a pulse right now, I just want to pulse check you, right? Show me the ropes, okay? Find people who can show you the ropes, but are open to your innovation. Red flag when people are like, do it my way or do it no way, listen to me or get out of here, and they shun you if you don't. That's cult behavior, just FYI. Been in a couple of those. Red flag for that. You want to work with people who are here to show you the ropes with love. They want to see you succeed. They don't mind if you outpace them. That's a real mentor. If you can succeed higher than your mentor and it doesn't trigger the shit out of them, you got a goodie. People who want to graduate you, they want to show you the ropes and they want to graduate you. It's not a forever codependency cycle of more and more and more coaching. It's a, if you stay, it's because you want to be there, not because they said you have to. This is what you look for in great mentorship. And I love that Lacey Graham said, it's you. I learned how to lead by having fucking phenomenal mentors. Shout out to all of my mentors who've shown me what this looks like. It's amazing. Okay, ready to go to number 5? 5, principle number 5. 5 success principles. Success way beyond capacity. Way beyond capacity. With my money blankie. Okay, 5. Write this in the chat. Write, go to the mountain. 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 What do I mean? This is for men and this is for women, both and. Go to the mountain. I wrote the Capacity series and I shared miracle after divine intervention, after me feeling like something was dying and the leaves were falling and it felt crazy and I was just like, ah! And every time there would be just like this whisper of what was next. The divine nudge. What I call God and what you experience as the divine, I think a lot of us are talking about the same thing. There's a bunch of different labels for it, but you know. We all call it different things. Nobody's arguing its existence. It's there. But there's this old parable or fable that talks about, is it Moses that went to the mountain to get the tablets, like in ancient texts? There's a lot of places where you can see even characters like Christ consciousness, like Jesus, would step away to listen. A lot of my life, I have been a loner and I've had a lot of space to listen. I've been doing a form of somatic work since I was in 8th grade. I didn't know what I was doing. But I will move my body for the sake of movement, get out in nature, breathe, and listen. And this has been part of my daily practice since I was a kid. To this day, I still do it. There's this old saying that men have to go to the mountain to seek God. And they say that women don't have to go to the mountain because God can find you in the kitchen. Yes. Yes. A lot of women are very much more in tune with spirit. We're very much more like a receiving antenna. We are a receiving energy by nature. We receive. It's who we are. We are naturally so in tune. My husband says this all the time. He's like, you pick up on stuff that I can't even see. Like, girl, I don't know what you're talking about. Because women are usually very intuitive. Like, how many of you have experienced this? Like, you sense and feel things that the other gender doesn't, right? If you're a woman, right? And then there's a lot of men who are very in tune and they've developed it because they've gone to the mountain. They've been intentional about their connection. So that's a really old saying that women don't have to go to the mountain because God can find you in the kitchen. And that might be true. And also, I always try to reverse engineer everything about my life because I've had uncommon success since I was pretty young. And one thing that I can say is I've spent a lot of time going to the mountain. Single or married, I go out in nature, I take space, I exit my normal environment, aka I get out of my head, I get out of my normal circumstances, I get out of the chaos of the house, I get out. And I go and I seek something else. I get out of my environment, I go to the mountain. I have had seasons where literally I was called to exit a business conference one time and walk across I was in a different country, walk across the street and go walk the beach. And I literally experienced a divine encounter that said, literally take everything out of your ears and go walk in nature for the next year. eliminate the voices. And I got that directive because I had pedestalized people for too long. And God was literally calling me back home to do reclamation work, going to the mountain. What I'm doing right here, right now in this hotel room, the other day, I was feeling that moment of like, God, I'm at capacity. I had been feeling like I was at capacity for like 2 months, it felt. And it was this feeling of like, I am operating at the most of who I am right now. Something has to change. And also like God was meeting me when I would be quiet. It would often be like out on a walk, or if I intentionally did my practice, or like trying to take a nap, and I would get my downloads in the quiet. And recently it's just been so inundated that I was like, I literally can't do what I need to do in terms of my spiritual practice in this environment. I have to go to the mountain. And so not me Wednesday morning announcing to my husband, I'm going to a hotel for a few days, asking Raven for my team, can you book me at the Westin where we're doing our event this summer, please? I literally have to go. I have to go. I have to exit. I have to be alone with my thoughts. Yes, God can meet you anywhere, but there's power in going to the mountain. Getting out of your environment, going someplace where you can actually listen, hear, be quiet, have silence, heal, tune in, tap in, turn on. You want uncommon success beyond capacity? Get yourself in places where you feel like you can go to the mountain. You can do this, you can do reclamation work anywhere, but it's a whole different thing to go to a different city, to be a part of even an experience that's being led by someone else who's walking you through this practice. It's a completely different ballgame. And with that, principle number 5, I have some invitations for you. This, what we talked about today, has been the work of my adult life. Of course, I do a ton of work with entrepreneurs, with branding, and I'm going to talk about that. You know, tomorrow, our concept, which is just going to be on Facebook, day 3 of this, I'm going to talk to people who want to generate more cash as an entrepreneur. That's going to be a tomorrow thing. But today was for everyone. This was for men. This is for women who see uncommon success and ask, how did this happen? These 5 things have been part and parcel to my success. So we have 3 things coming up for you. The first is an invitation to reclamation work. I talked about releasing shame and what I call like inferred identities, what other people tell you that you are, you can be, etc. Releasing those from the body. It's an actual practice. You must be intentional to do this work. So this upcoming Wednesday, behind closed doors in a private space with our clients, we're doing reclamation work. Now, this is open to men and women. There's already men in this space. We create an incredibly safe place for both men and women to be part of this. I'm going to take our clients through a journey of body and voice reclamation. Now, this is open to anyone. You don't have to be an entrepreneur to be part of it and benefit from it. It could just be like you've lost your voice in religion. Maybe you lost your voice and your identity in your marriage. Maybe you lost your voice as a child with your mom and you need to learn how to speak up. Maybe you have a problem using your voice in your job or your corporate environment. Perhaps you desire to have a brand and be more vocal, and every time you go to do it, you're like, oh, I'm about to be shunned, I'm going to die, right? Or they're doing it so much better than me, why should I try? All that kind of stuff. There's reclamation work to be done there for you to really have ownership of your voice. So this Wednesday, I'm doing a full-blown reclamation practice with my clients before I take them into our copywriting series for the year. Because if you're going to learn copywriting, your voice has to be free. So before we ever do the copywriting class, before we ever go for the copywriting class, we're going to do reclamation work. So that particular program it's called Dripping Wet Reclamation. Of course, we had to do dripping wet to make it spicy, right? Really push the envelope, take it a little bit sensual, because you're gonna push the envelope in this class, in this course. It opens on Wednesday. We'll be live at 3 p.m. There is replay access available if you decide to join us. And this is part of Locked and Loaded if you're inside of Locked and Loaded for the year. So that space is open now. My team has already put the link out there in the comments section on Facebook. You can also find these links in my stories today. So space number 1 is the reclamation work of your body and your voice. And you're so invited. The link is there. This is a limited time offer though, because we're going to be live Wednesday. The replay access will be up for a while, and then the space closes. So it's not like you can do it all year long or whatever. This is like a one-time program, okay? Space number 2, that is really about going to the mountain, is where I am right now. This summer, we are going to be doing a live event. I don't want to call it, I'll just call it a conference. That's what we'll call it. It's a 3-day in-person event where if you want to know what this work is, you're like, okay, you're telling me to do identity work, you're telling me to do ancestral work, you're telling me to reclaim my body and my voice. Like, what the fuck does that look like? We're going to do it live in person for 3 days. Earlier, I want to say in December, we did a program called Clear to Soar. If you were part of Clear to Soar, go ahead and write Clear to Soar in the comments. Clear to Soar. It was amazing. My Instagram died. It's okay. I'm over here. Clear to Soar is vibrational work, emotional work, energy work, where we're literally clearing any of the ties that are holding you back, lighting a fire within you and propelling you into the next moves for your life. Clear to Soar is just, it's one of those things my team was saying earlier today. They're like, Iconic and Clear to Soar are literally your best programs ever. And this is the in-person version of those. That experience is August 11th, 12th, and 13th here in Atlanta, Georgia. Tickets are live right now. The thing about these tickets are that there's limited amount of VIP. There's also a certain amount that we can fit into the room. And the price goes up every Friday. So there's about 19 weeks between now and the live event. And the price goes up every week. So tickets are live right now. I'll have my team post the links. There's VIP and there's general admission. This is work that's open to both men and women. And when I first thought about offering this event, Clear to Soar, what I really wanted was to do this work with women. And as we got closer and closer to like launching it, I realized that one of the greatest disconnects that I see with women is when women start to rise and they start to do this emotional intelligence work and their partners don't do it with them. The disconnect is like palpable. The tension you can cut it with a knife. It causes disunity when one partner really starts to rise their emotional intelligence and really get free, and the other partner's in bondage. And so that being said, if you're coming to this event, hands down, bring the people that you love. I'm not for like cutting people off and being like, yeah, just leave people behind that aren't like you. I'm like, no, bring them with you. If you're super close to your sister or your mom and you just know like you're about to jump in your emotional intelligence, and if they don't jump with you, there's going to be a disconnect, bring them. If it's your partner, if it's your team, and you're like, we all need this work, bring all of them. There's also, thank you so much. Marie said last time you talked about Clear to Soar, it was for only women. It's so cool they open it to men. It's so needed. Like the work, to do it with your partner, to do it with your team, to do it with your family is so next level. I wouldn't do it alone. So as we were coming into talking about this conference, I had a full-blown vision, and I saw men and I saw women. I saw them on two different sides of the room, which was interesting. And like God showed me that the reason for this is because a lot of people, when they are at an event like this with their partner, they're wondering if their partner got it. Like, imagine you're sitting there with, whoever your partner is, like whether it's your parent or, your spouse or whatever. But like you're sitting next to your partner and you're going, that was for them. They struggle with that. That's their problem. When like you need to be there for your own transformation. And so I saw men on one side of the room and I saw women on the other side so that they can have their own experience and not be like projecting onto their partner like, hey, Charles, did you get that? Do you hear what she said right there? You really need to make that adjustment. We don't want to be like that. So I literally saw like the men in one space and the women in another space in the same conference room. And especially if we end up doing like some of the practices that I do in terms of like body movement or whatever, I want the women to be really in their own bubble, in their own element, right? And just fully in the moment and not thinking about their partner or any other man that's in the room, and vice versa, right? It's pretty cool. So Clear to Soar is this summer. It's August 11th, 12th, and 13th. If you are curious about the work that I'm talking about, identity work, the return to your body, releasing shame, doing ancestral work, like being around other people who think like this. We are the generation of people who are doing healing work for the past, the present, and the future, for like our whole bloodlines. That's who I hang out with. It's a real 1% environment. Not a lot of people are into this, even though it's so desperately needed. That's the vibe of this. So tickets are out right now. General admission is in the 500s. We have payment plan options. So there's like a 3 or 4 pay available for the tickets. All the information's on the landing page, like where we are, booking your hotel, all the things. And there is a VIP ticket available as well if you want priority seating in the front. We're doing luncheons with our VIPs. And weirdly, like 90% of the tickets that have been bought have all been VIP so far. I was not expecting that. Like, that's pretty cool. So there's a limited number. But if you want to meet my team and really have like an intimate luncheon every day with us, that's what is in the VIP ticket. That and like front row seating. Sue Flynn said, I just had this conversation with my husband last night. What do you do if your partner's not interested at all, never has been in any kind of personal development? This is so hard on our relationship. Yeah, I have so been there. Not with Brad, but with my first husband. His whole thing was like, if I bought him a ticket, he would go. And it wasn't a force thing. It was just like, it was a money thing, and it was a time thing, and it was a being with me thing. And so, he wouldn't buy the ticket himself, but if I would buy him a ticket, he would go. And then he got to have his own experience. And this is the thing about projection and identity is we don't get to dictate what experience people have. All we can ask is that they come with an open heart or an open mind. And, Even if you ask them to just come and hold space for you, that's a total conversation. Like, it's not like, I don't think something's wrong with you, and I'm not trying to fix you, and I'm not trying to change you, and I'm not wanting to judge you, but I'm going through this transformation, and I want you to have context for what I'm learning. Because it's so hard. Tell me if you've had this happen before. It's so hard to go to a conference or like this life-changing event or conversation, and then you come home and you try to explain it to your partner or your mom or the people in your business. It's so weird. Is it not weird? It's so weird. So even if you just make a case for like, hey, can you just come and witness what I'm going through so that you have context? Will you come and hold space for me? If it's your partner and they're not into it, just will you come and hold space for me? Will you come and just witness what I'm going through and be my rock? That's how I would approach it. If Brad was not into it, I would just be like, yo. You know, and you can't force people to do anything. It's like, if it's not their thing, it's not their thing. But that would be the approach that I would take personally, just personally. I've asked my husband lately to do some really weird things, and he's been down for it, so that's been nice. But I know not everyone is like that. So we have Clear to Soar, limited availability on different ticket types. The price goes up every single Friday, and we're going to be doing this work. It's going to be a freedom event, personal and soul and body freedom. It's going to be such a vibe. I can't wait to be surprised by who comes. And space number 3 that I want to invite you to, if you're not already there, is called the Sisterhood. Now, there are spaces that are open to men, and those include the reclamation work this upcoming Wednesday. Clear to Soar is open to men, but the Sisterhood is a women's only space. And if you are curious about my planet, you want to come in and understand the vibe, you want to taste test it, you want to stick your feet in the water, you want to check it out, the Sisterhood is pretty much the low riskiest place to do that in. My clients are so sweet. They're like, this work it's such a vibe. It's all the work that I teach in my energetics and emotions program, but it's spanned out over a year. We meet together every single month. If you join now, you actually walk into a bank of content, including the virtual Clear to Soar stuff that we did in December. There's a lot of emotional intelligence work, a lot of work around energetics, resonance, frequency, just rising in your personhood. And we go through a sequence throughout the year together over the span of, the year. So the Sisterhood is open now. You'll walk into a bank of content that you get to devour at your own pace. We have monthly meetups, and if you can't make the monthly meetup, which is virtual, you have the absolute pleasure of watching it on demand whenever, because it just goes into your client vault. So those are 3 different spaces that, if you liked what I talked about today, the identity work, the return to the body, releasing shame, realizing some of this stuff is ancestral and deciding that you get to work on that, right? Surrounding yourself with other people who are focused on this work and going to the mountain to fucking do it. These are the three spots. So, yeah. I think that's it for today. This was day 2. What I will say is I'm going to be live tomorrow, and it's going to be a little bit of a different conversation. I'm going to be speaking to the entrepreneurs, and I'm also going to give you a tour of the XMH empire. So what I notice in the coaching space is that there's a lot of blurriness. I guess you could call it blurriness. It's like you don't know what you're buying. And a lot of us have bought that way and gotten burned. It's okay. And now as leaders in the space, we get to rectify that. And so tomorrow I'm going to be showing you a little tour of the XMH empire. I'm going to show you what's in places like the Sisterhood and Locked and Loaded, different programs that we have. just for transparency's sake, because we do badass trainings. Literally, it's typically twice a week. At least once a week, I do a high-level training for my entrepreneurs, and I want to showcase what we got. So that'll be tomorrow. I'll be live, and we'll also be doing a draw. So if you loved what you learned here, tag a friend in the comments. That counts as a share. Hit share on this video publicly. That counts as a share. Share the graphic to your stories. That counts as a share. And tomorrow we're going to be pulling some names for things like the XMH tumbler. We're going to do the wealthy hat, and one person is going to be winning $5.55 cashola. So if you like those types of things and you're down for prizes, and if it feels aligned, give it a share. And I'm going to be back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock talking more about these topics, what I see in my industry and beyond, success, wealth, and I'm going to be talking straight to the entrepreneurs. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. Love you so much, and bye-bye.